Random Horror Show presents Spooky Reads.
I'm Dicey Grenor, also known as Spicy Dicey, and I write erotic sci-fi fantasy horror. I write books, I write short stories, and I write scripts. Today I'm going to read from Demented Dimension, which is a three-part anthology of erotic psycho horror stories. I have 6 stories in each anthology, so collectively there are 18 stories. Demented Dimension is a sexy reimagining of legendary demented creatures and an unveiling of new psychological terrors from the twisted mind of one unmedicated writer. So, the first story that's in this collection in part 1 is called The Demon and the Nun. Yes, it was inspired by those nun movies. I loved them. The Demon and the Nun. The synopsis is Sister Agnes's skill in determining whether Vatican parishioners are suitable for safe exorcisms is put to the ultimate test when her crush is the one possessed. It's been said that there are 3 stages of demonic activity: infestation, oppression, and possession. Anyone could easily help another overcome an affliction during the first 2 stages. For liability purposes, I advise against interfering with someone in the final stage unless one had extensive training and a whole team of experienced clergy. During the possession phase, demons usually took ownership of human bodies and refused to let go without fatally harming their victims. That's where I came in. I was trained and ordained in all 3 stages and fearless in my execution of an exorcism when necessary. Despite the high fatality rate of failed exorcisms within the last century, I hadn't lost a human yet. Freeing demon-possessed humans was a scary, lonely job that I took seriously because I didn't want the church to lose a soul or for their blood to be on my hands. Especially in this case. Psst, Sister Agnes. My current subject's voice had dropped a few octaves since he'd last spoken 10 minutes ago, and he'd begun to writhe on the bed. You don't have to touch it. Just raise your ham a little and let me peek at your thighs. Suppressing a groan, I shifted in my seat, crossing my legs and smoothing the thick material of my habit down over my legs. Regardless of the effect his human exterior had on me, I refused to allow the demon inside to see the tiniest bit of my leg. There you are. I see we are right on schedule. I yawned, feigning boredom with the demon's theatrics as I looked at the clock on the wall. You claim to be suffering in Samuel's body, yet you refuse to leave it. Why is that? What is it that you want from him? Who says I want anything from him? Samuel's eyes turned from dark brown to a deep shade of icy blue, an eerie look on his dark skin. And I'm only suffering because you will not surrender. Surrender, huh? I scribbled on my notepad this new information. The demon wanted me to surrender before asking the number 1 question on my list, what is your name? He didn't answer. A troublesome laughter erupted from his throat instead. My name is unimportant. Concentrate on my body, on Samuel's body, on your want for it. Oh, I did. Constantly. As frustrating as it was, I couldn't help myself. Okay then, you're not going to tell me your name. I tossed my notepad on the floor. No need to go through the same protocols tonight and get the same lack of results. Why is my surrender so important to you? Is this why you picked Samuel's body? Because this demonic possession certainly felt personal to me. You see, I'd grown up with Samuel after all. He'd been my grade school crush. I had even thought I'd marry him someday back before I'd heard the call of God and forsaken worldly pursuits. Since then, Samuel had held a special private place in my heart, a place I should have acknowledged and confessed, a place that should have led to me recusing myself from being assigned to this case. I should have done it long before my thoughts had turned lustful and I'd allowed my feelings to compromise my evaluation of him. I prayed the damage wasn't irreparable. Yes, the demon answered, the price being I had to watch him rub himself over his trousers. I cleared my throat. You know I've taken vows. You're wasting your time trying to get me to surrender. Samuel's perfect smile brightens. I like a challenge just like you do. Maybe I'll continue to torture you and me until I get what I want. I have nothing but time. He took his time undressing, then stood before me in all his manly glory. My cheeks reddened in fury and sexual frustration. The demon, this demon got under my skin like none other before. Perhaps solely because of the body he'd chosen. Perhaps because he manifested himself unlike any other demon I'd encountered. After 15 years of investigating supernatural phenomenon for the Vatican, this was the oddest case of demonic possession I'd ever witnessed. The challenge alone had kept me from walking away, even if my impure feelings for Samuel hadn't already developed. Every day, Samuel appeared as his normal self, laughing, talking, moving about with ease, until midnight struck every night. Then he became someone else, something else, until exactly 6 o'clock the next morning. I had only the 6-hour window to observe and question the demon inside him. According to reports from within the community, Samuel had suffered with this demonic influence for over a year. His own mother had begged the abbey to take him in as she had become too frightened to have him under her roof. In desperation, his mother had threatened to take Samuel's life in her own if we could not take him. She disappeared after we agreed and relocated him. Unfortunately, Samuel's affliction had gotten worse once he left her care and taken up residence within our quarters. He'd gone from sleeplessness, a darkened countenance, and a speaking in a voice not his own to laying back on the bed, taking out his cock and stroking it unto completion whenever the clock chimed the midnight hour. I suspected all the virgin nuns tending to his needs daily had been the trigger. Because of this behavior and concern for our safety, Samuel had always remained in long chains and locked in his room, even when he seemed normal. Samuel did other strange things like levitate, speak in tongues, and lap up his food like an animal. Not only had his eyes turned from dark brown to solid ice blue, but they had changed shapes as well. None of those things affected me quite as much as watching him watch me as he pleasured himself. I continued to observe his behavior nightly for evaluation purposes, but I could not deny the intense need and moisture that developed between my thighs as I watched him. Watching this beautiful body stroke and strain made me tighten my legs and adjust on the wooden seat from the corner where I had stayed out of reach every night, just like tonight. Knowing this pattern, I could have saved myself some dignity by entering his room after 6 in the morning and leaving before midnight like the other nuns. Surely I would avoid the demon's teasing and taunting once he started touching himself, locked in his sordid nun fetishization. If I had just stayed on the other side of this door. But I would also miss the opportunity to witness Samuel's demon when it was on full display. I couldn't rightfully evaluate what I could not see. So, my own modesty aside, I entered Samuel's room alone and diligently did my job, while biting my fingernails and rubbing my legs together for a bit of comfort. I left every morning carrying the palpable shame of his actions and my secret enjoyment of such, praying no one noticed my blushing. The demon in Samuel moaned from the bed where he lay naked and wanting. This would be so much better if you came over here and touched me, sister. He stroked himself with renewed vigor once he realized he had my undivided attention. Please, he begged. I don't want to spoil the juicy bits. You can read further for yourself in Demented Dimension Part 1, The Demon and the Nun. You can follow me all over socials at Dicey Grenor, and my website is diceygrenorbooks.com. Happy spooky season.